I wanted to know what you thought about the Ben Simmons report that he'll play for anybody but the Sixers, and what Embiid was tweeting about yesterday, where he was denying there was a rift between the two. And I guess part of that comes from him being very honest in the post-game press conference. First blush, I'm sure he had his emotions running wild after being eliminated and Simmons passing up the bunny dunk, and that was kind of the last straw with everybody in Philadelphia. What did you make of all that yesterday?
You know, maybe this is who I am. I'm just like, I'm not one of these people in the pretend world, in the alternate timeline, in the multiverse, where I actually am able to live out my dream of being a GM. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just not the type of GM in my head, franchise mode, Mike. Okay. I'm not the kind of guy who looks at situations in terms of, well, I have a 25-year-old Defensive Player of the Year runner-up, multiple-time All-Star, All-NBA team selection, who's a gifted passer and an excellent defender, and I am going to get heaven and earth for him. No, I look at it like, okay, he's not a good fit here. He's probably, if he can fix his shooting woes, probably ain't going to happen on the timetable we want it to happen, or we've seen no indication that he can fix it or is truly committed to fixing it in the time that he's been here. Okay, and whether or not we lose the team, win the team, blah, 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 my man had 8, 6, and 5 points. Not to mention, after the game, Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid, they said the truth out loud, okay? So it is clearly uncomfortable and perhaps even untenable to return Ben Simmons here. So similar to as I was saying about Nick Caserio, ironically, now we're talking about a former Houston Rockets GM and Daryl Morey. It's like, if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm not trying to get who do I think I am asking for 4 first-round picks and two players that are all-star player for a dude that can't come back here. And now Ben Simmons has made it that much more difficult by making it clear I'm holding out, which is what every other team was probably banking on. Like, you know what, this will get messy for them. This will get worse before it gets better because they got to get rid of Ben Simmons. So I blame Daryl Morey for having not moved on from this problem a long time ago. Instead of trying to hold the situation hostage and act like, oh, it's all good, I just so happen to want to trade Ben Simmons, the same dude I wanted to trade last year for James Harden, understandably so, but the same dude I wanted to trade last year, acting like you don't have to trade him. He should be more desperate to make the trade than other teams are to get Ben Simmons. So lower your asking price, get him up out of there, and maybe you don't get you're not going to get 100 pennies on the dollar for him. You're just not. At least not in the short term. It may not seem that way, but you get a better-fitting roster. There was a report that it was Malcolm Brogdon in the first at one point. Now, maybe one first-round pick, probably not enough, but give me that. I'll take that in a second. You know, you're probably not going to do a whole lot better than that under the circumstances. You see what I'm saying? So
I do.
Embiid was just doing the thing he had to do in case Ben Simmons comes back. Like, hey, my name's Paul. That's between y'all. My name's Ben and I ain't in it. You know, if we're teammates, I love him. We're good. Don't look at me. It's not my fault, right? Doc will probably do something similar. To me, Daryl Morey should have figured this out instead of having this cloud hanging over them going on the training camp. He should have already made the trade by now.
What if
he's driving too hard a bargain?
What if he's waiting for Portland in that situation with
you don't know.
Lillard to I know you don't, but you know, maybe the timelines can match because, you know, as you know, just like in any sport, deadlines spur action.
Yes.
What if, you know, he knows, and I'm sure he's got his ear to the ground, that Lillard that's a situation they're still working on, and that's kind of a ticking situation in Portland, and he's trying to wait for that.
I'm a bird hand, two in the bush kind of guy. I mean, you can count on Dame. You can count on the Blazers struggling in the first half under Chauncey Billups. You can count on Damian Lillard just being, you know, completely checked out at the midway point. And I don't know Dame, but for what I understand, if Dame's in, he's in until he's not. And I think it would be somewhat out of character of Damian Lillard to, at midseason, decide, get me out of here by the deadline. Maybe after the season is something altogether different, right? But maybe that goes that way. Maybe. That's a big if. Maybe Bradley Beal has a change of heart and decides, you know what, I said I liked it here, but I changed my mind. Get me out of here. Okay, but you're banking on these unknowns. Bird and hands were two in the bush for me. And so in the meantime, your team is imploding. So everybody's looking around. Everybody that's interested in Ben Simmons, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's Golden State, whether it's Sacramento, whoever it is, They're looking at Indiana. They're looking at you saying, okay, you're driving a hard bargain. We'll just wait. We'll just wait till you have no choice but to trade him, and your price has to come down. So they're waiting for your situation to implode while you're waiting for somebody else's situation to implode. I would just rather see them get a better-fitting roster around Embiid and move on from the situation. And for Ben Simmons' sake, listen, I was as hard on him as anybody after he put up 8, 6, and 5 in those last 3 games of the playoffs. Okay? And I have no sympathy for the heat that he's gotten for coming up small the way that he did. Okay? And I get why Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid were upset. Look, man, you're primarily responsible for holding us back at this point, at least on the offensive end, with all due respect to what he does on defense, and even from a passing standpoint. Okay? I get all of that. He's been hung out to dry, thrown under the bus, whatever you want to say. He has been the fall guy. Like, let him go. Because this is where I do have some sympathy. Is like, he doesn't need to be brought back into this situation, given the way last year ended. Yes, he has 4 guaranteed years left, but move on from him. Because he would thrive in a Minnesota. If Minnesota's dreams come true, and he's with Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, and maybe even D'Angelo Russell as well, I pay to see that. You know, let him go somewhere where he can thrive, because it ain't in Philadelphia. He knows it. They know it. The rest of the league knows it. We know it. Move on.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.